Hello my friends, this is my rhubarb patch and I'm going to harvest a bunch of this and make some strawberry rhubarb preserves. Harvest rhubarb, what you want to do is reach down and you want to snap it at the base. The leaves of rhubarb is poisonous, so we want to stay clear of that. There it is. What I do every fall is I mound manure and just bury it with wheelbarrow after wheelbarrow of the manure. And these are real heavy feeders, so it responds real well to that feeding. Size of those leaves. Right there is 5.5 pounds of rhubarb freshly picked. What I'm going to do with this rhubarb is dice it up and I'm going to mix it with some strawberries and I'm going to cook it down. Of course sugar has to go in it. Rhubarb in the early cookbooks was called springfruit, because it's one of the earliest vegetables or plants that would bloom. And rhubarb is not a fruit. And as I said earlier, you don't want to eat the leaves. It's full of high concentration of oxalic acid, which in a high dose is poisonous. Often the rhubarb was used as a soup, where you would cook it down and add sweeteners of some sort. Here I have about 5 pounds of strawberries, so about equal proportion of strawberries to rhubarb. So these have already been washed and I'm going to remove the stems and put those in with this rhubarb. And you don't really have to cut them, but if they're big, that makes them easier. The rhubarb, when you're growing it, I had trouble for a few years trying to get mine established. My soil is very clay and poorly drained. So what I did was I planted my rhubarb in raised bed, which they really responded well to that. And I filled the raised bed with rotted compost, and I planted the rhubarb crowns when they were dormant and let them grow or set for the first year. And then in that first fall I mounded manure, rotted manure, and just buried them real deep, almost about a foot deep. And they are very heavy feeders and they responded very well to that. The other name for rhubarb was pie plant, because it was very common to be made pies, and strawberry rhubarb pie is one of the favorites. And what I'm going to do with this batch, it's going to be very similar to the ingredient for making pie, but I don't think I'm going to put thickening agent in, like tapioca or flour. I just want to use it as a condiment for like over ice cream, that kind of stuff. The rhubarb plant grows in a colder type climate, which is ideal for here, northwest Pennsylvania. The winter temperature for the plant should be less than 40 degrees, which our average temperature is about 19 degrees, that's Fahrenheit. And the summer temperature should be less than 75 degrees. Rarely do we get temperatures that ever go into the 80s in the summertime. So, you know, we're into late spring right now, and the temperatures in the daytime are in the upper 60s, luckily to hit 70. Nighttime, the temperature is going down into the 50s, and tonight it may even drop into the 40s. And we are right at the beginning of June. So definitely not that warm of a climate, but a very pleasant summer compared to our southern friends. Here we have the strawberries and rhubarb, and there's about over 10 pounds, just over 10 pounds with the two combined. Okay, now since there was 5 pounds of rhubarb, I'm going to add 5 cups of sugar. And the rhubarb, when I was a kid, as a treat, my mother would give us a sugar bowl, and we would take the stalk and dip the end of the stalk into the sugar, and we would eat it that way. Of course, we'd take little bites of the rhubarb and make sure that little bite had a lot of sugar in it. Then after the sugar, I just had, right there, 5 cups. Okay, we want to coat this, shake it around, and let it set. And in addition to that, I'm going to add cinnamon, and I'm guessing, and vanilla. We'll probably put a couple tablespoons of vanilla. Let me mix that up a bit. The strawberries and the rhubarb is loaded with water, so we won't have to add water to this. It'll cook down. We do want to add lemon, and I would say with this volume, I don't have fresh lemon, so I'm going to add the liquid. I'm going to add about 1/4 cup, which will be about half of this squeeze bottle. And that's it. We're going to cook it down. I'm going to get my canner out, fill it with water. I'm going to start heating that first, the water, because I'm going to can the jars, and it takes a long time for the water in the canner to get up to boiling temperature because there's a large volume of water. I'm going to put my jars and lids and rings in that water and get it boiling and sterilize the jars right there. And then from that I'll go and do the canning procedure. Here I have the jars in my canner. Going to bring it up to a boil, sterilize those, And here we just started heating the rhubarb and the strawberries. Here's about 10 minutes on the stove. Still not boiling, but you can see how much liquid. This is why you don't add liquids into the rhubarb and the strawberries. It will produce quite a bit of liquid. Now keep cooking this until all the fruit is broken down. These have been boiling. I had the lid on the pressure cooker for about 10 minutes, so these are sterile. I'm going to take them out, set them in a position that they can be easily filled. I'll keep the water on the pressure cooker, heat on the pressure cooker, so that when I process them, it will be at boiling temperature. It'll make it go a lot quicker. The strawberries and rhubarb is at a full boil. You can see right there. So the fruit's pretty much broken down. And if you get a lot of foaming, you want to cut the foaming down, you could put a couple dabs of butter in there and that will keep it from foaming. So unless it gets too much, I'm not going to put the butter in. You see how the level came up. I'm adding the butter. Just a few. See, the level is dropping because it's knocking the foaming down. Here you can see the foaming completely gone. The rhubarb pulp is completely broken down. There's some chunks of strawberries, but the rhubarb is, you couldn't even tell that there's any solid pieces in there. Okay, you want to fill this to about a 1/4 inch to the top. Stir a lid, and we put the ring on loosely, and it's going to go into the pressure canner and it'll be completely submersed. So let me get all these filled first and then we'll go do that. Just finger tight. You can see here I have the jars submersed and I have 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 in there. I have 10 jars. One jar won't fit. Not a problem. I'm going to eat that one first. And it is sterile. Everything was sterilized, so it probably would be okay anyway. But I'm going to process this for 10 minutes. 5 minutes was all that was required because everything was sterile. And the filling was boiled for maybe 20 minutes, if not more. So everything was sterile. So 5 minutes would have been okay. Not a big deal to let it go 10. The rhubarb is perfect. I have the Sugar volume cut down, probably half of what's required. Not overly sweet, and I can see why they would make this into a soup. I like cleaning up. I'll probably have a sugar rush when this is all over. So what I ended up with is 10 pints, so that's probably a pound per pint. Well, thanks for watching, my friends. Bye-bye. I'll probably eat that whole jar tomorrow.